Okay, so let's select the tube there. Hit Z, hide everything else. Okay, and this will be pretty easy for us to do as well. Let's just clear the UVs, convert it to editable poly, chuck on that unwrap, and we'll just unwrap this quick. And on something like this, we're probably pretty much going to need to break it off into a couple of separate pieces here. There's really no way that we could kind of unfold this top and still have it attached to this side without getting some distortion along here because these are tapering in, and the same on the bottom. So we're going to need to kind of separate it out, and let's just do that quick. And let's just maybe point to point or something for just to change it up here. So I'm going to go over to edge and then over to point, and we're just going to trace around this center edge at the top. Okay, just like that. Okay, so we're cutting around there. We'll do the same on the bottom. Okay, so just follow those verts around until you get back to where you started, like that. Let's do the same thing over here on the outside. Okay, and you don't want to do it like that. It's going to try to cut through the center, so let's undo that. And we'll just go around the side. And like I mentioned before, you can skip verts. You just don't want to take a huge chunk because sometimes it doesn't know what you want to do. All right, so just take it in a little bit at a time, and it should follow around fine. Okay, you can also use the loop function with an edge selection here, which is a lot faster, but just for the sake of the demonstration, I'm just going to do it with point to point. Okay, so we have a cut around the top, we have a cut around the bottom, and now these can be planar mapped and separated out, but we need to again cut from the top to the bottom on the inside and the outside, so this can kind of unfold into a strip. Okay, so we'll just grab any edge on the inside, cut it from the top to the bottom, and any edge on the outside from top to bottom, just like that. Okay, turn off the point to point, grab polygon, and we'll just expand the selection on top here and planar map it. Same thing on the bottom, planar map that, and then we'll just grab the inside. And you can use the cylindrical map here, but we'll just use pelt because it's a little quicker. All right, so let's pull that out, hit commit, and we'll just grab the outside and expand it, and we'll pelt map that as well. Okay, so now we have the four pieces separated out, and we'll just get it organized here in the edit window. All right, so just pull this part of it. Let's maybe rotate him a little bit more straight, and we could actually just even use the straighten option to straighten these out if you want. Okay, so let's relax them down. We'll do all four at once, same settings. Okay, and that's pretty quick, so we'll just kind of separate them out here. All right, and let's also make sure they're in the right scale, so we'll just rescale them, and that looks good. And usually for something like this, I'll leave it in a few pieces. There's really no good way to stitch it back together. You could attach these in the center if you want them to be like that. That's up to you. It's really not necessary. It's really not going to make the seam any less noticeable besides that one little section there. All right, so let's move these over and let's scale them down. Okay, park them in there and that's done. Okay, and on this we should have no distortion whatsoever because those side strips are completely flat as well as the top and bottom. Okay, so let's unhide all. And let's maybe do one other way on here just while we're at it. Just going to clone this again as a copy, hide everything else, delete those UVs off there, clear them out, and put the unwrap on. Okay, and I'm just going to leave the checker on here for now, and rather than doing any seams at all, we'll just use some automated mapping on this. Okay, so let's go right into the Unwrap editor. Click on polygon there, we'll grab all the polys, and we'll just go up to mapping and back to flat mapping. Okay, and we'll just hit OK. Alright, and you can see that's going to separate that out based on the angle again. Alright, everything's completely flat here. We have a number of seams, as you can see in the viewport here, wherever it's been broken. Okay, so we could just easily stitch this back together to get something similar to what we just had with the pelt option. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and let me make this a little bit bigger. And we'll just quickly stitch some edges together. Okay, and we'll just hit S or whatever your keyboard shortcut's going to be. And we'll stitch these together until they're into a full line. Okay, just like that. All right, now we can just move these wherever we want. Let's just rotate them up here. And we'll just scale everything down. And doing it that way, they should all be in the right proportion to each other already. Okay, so that's a pretty quick way of doing it as well. And you'll end up with pretty much the same exact seams as we had the first time. Alright, so whatever way you like to do, it'll work pretty much the exact same way, and you'll end up with the exact same result. Okay, so let's look at doing it on some tubes. Let's tackle the most difficult one, which is a sphere. Okay, there's really absolutely no way to unwrap this in one piece and actually have it without any distortion. Okay, so let's grab this guy, hide everything out. Okay, so what we'll do here is let's just do a couple of different ways. Let's clear the UVs. I'm just going to make a couple of copies of this. Let's collapse that first, put an unwrap on, and I'm just going to clone this a few times here. Okay, so we'll do 2 copies, and let's grab the first one here. Okay, so for starters, let's do it probably the best way, which will be go into edge. Let's go into the top view. Just going to zoom in here. I'm going to grab one of the center edges going up and down, as well as one of the center edges going left to right, and we're going to loop them. Okay, so we have it like that. Okay, right around it. And if you do it this way, you can just convert those to seams. And then if we just grab one of these, expand it, and what the hell, we'll just pelt map it. Okay, so I'm just going to flatten that out. Hit commit. Let's move this out of the way for a second, and we'll just do this for all 4 of these sections. Okay, so just pelt map each of those. Okay, until you get back to the first section, so we have 4 chunks in here. Okay, we'll just move these islands apart. Okay, and then we can just relax them down really quick here. And pretty much the same settings, face angles and the amount of 1, hit relax. Okay, you can see those are straightened out. And you can quickly rotate them upright if you want. Okay, so what we essentially have here is it completely flattened out on each of these sections, which is good, but obviously we have a number of seams here, which will take some work to kind of hide or cover up. If you're using Max 12 and you have viewport canvas, you can just actually paint right over those to get rid of them, and it's really not an issue anymore. Or in something like body paint, you can also do that, or even ZBrush or Mudbox. If you're doing it in Photoshop, you're going to have to take some time and try to get rid of these because they will be noticeable when they're that apparent. Let's throw our checker on here. Okay, and you can see we pretty much don't have any distortion on there, which is good. The only downside being those seams. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of make the call on which way you want to do it. When you're working with something like this, another option would be, let's do it on this one, kind of trying to cut out the top and the bottom and then trying to unfold the side. And you can do that. It's going to give us kind of the same thing as we had with the cone, but let's just take a look at how to do that. Just go to edge here, we'll grab one up here. Let's grab the same one down at the bottom and we'll loop those. Okay, so we have a loop there and there, convert those to seams. And then we'll just loop one of these side edges, okay, and that's going to go right around, so we'll go into the top view. Let's actually do this one here instead. Turn off ignore back facing, we'll just deselect these right to about there. Okay, so it's just lining up the blue seam there on the top and the bottom, and then convert that to a seam. Okay, that'll let us planar map the bottom and the top and then kind of unwrap the sides. Alright, we could actually maybe even do this in multiple pieces, but let's just try it out as one piece for now. Okay, so back to polygon, grab the top, expand it, and we'll just planar map that. Let's planar map the bottom, and we'll pelt map the side piece here. So back into pelt, pull that out a bit, hit commit, and we'll just try to straighten this out. Whoops, make sure we have element checked. Okay, so let's relax this one down. Okay, and you can see that's also going to give us that feather. Okay, we can try these, but it's really not going to do anything on those guys. Okay, we'll also rescale them here. Okay, so we'll see what that looks like with the checker on. Okay, and you can see for the most part, the checkers are fairly square here, but as we get up to the top, they're going to become more and more squashed. Okay, and you can see the top spine there because it's planar map, but right around here, you can see it's got quite a bit of distortion. Okay, and you can even break it into multiple pieces if you want to try to eliminate that a little bit more. The problem is the curve here of the surface. That needs to be maintained in the UVs, or else it's even going to be worse. Okay, so what we could do here is actually break this into a couple of chunks. Let's grab an edge there and maybe this one here. We'll loop those and we'll just right click and break. Okay, so now we have 3 separate parts for that middle section. Let's just move that over, move this over. And if we relax this down now, you're going to see that we're going to get this kind of curve on each of the outside pieces here. Okay. And this will definitely give us a better result in the viewport here, as far as how even these are and how little distortion we have on the top now that we've broken it up more. Okay, we could actually even do it again over here, so we kind of have it in quarters or thirds. Okay, so if you break it more and more, it's going to be better with less distortion, but you're going to have to deal with those multiple seams, which can be a little tricky to get rid of. Okay, so we have to make the call on that again. And like I mentioned, with any kind of 3D painter, you can just, you know, clone those right out based on your texture, and it really isn't a problem. Okay, so I've never actually mapped a cylinder this way or a sphere this way before, but I just thought I would show you another option. I usually do it more like this, but again, you probably won't have to map something that's perfectly spherical that often. Let's just move this over. And another option would be to, you know, cut it in half and then try to project a planar map onto the top and the bottom, and that would also give you a lot more distortion than what we have on these two. Okay, so you're gonna have to kind of just work with it. There's really no magic way to do it. All right, let's just delete this. Okay, so let's try the geosphere here. So let's just grab this geosphere here, the last one. Okay, and we'll hide everything else. And as you can see, this is completely made up of triangles. All right, and there's really no good, clean way to unwrap these. As you can see, we really don't have any simple lines that or edges that we can just select and cut it up. All right, so we have a couple of options here. Let's just do the easy one, and it's definitely not going to be very pretty. We're going to have a lot of seams to deal with. Let's put an unwrap on here. Let's clear the UVs too, just to make sure. Okay, and the first one we'll do is just go into the unwrap window again. Let's go to polygon, grab all these polygons, and we'll just flat map it. All right, and if we just hit OK to this at 45 degrees, you can see it's going to bust that up into quite a few small little chunks here. All right, and we could just go through and, you know, break these off and stitch them back in to get some bigger chunks and eliminate some of the seams, which you're going to need to do anyways, but rather than doing it at 45 degrees, let's hit Control Z here. Let's go back up here to flat mapping, and we'll change the angle to something a little bit higher. Let's do like 70 degrees, okay? And we'll hit that, and as you can see, it kept some of those chunks attached to the bigger sections and didn't break it up so much. Okay, so it's a good idea to do that so you don't have to stitch so many pieces back together. We can also relax it down here. Alright, so we'll just try the same settings. Okay, so that's pretty much flattened out. We probably have a little bit of distortion on the center of these sections, but that's mostly flat overall. Okay, so if we go in here and we look at our seams, you can see that looks pretty nasty. They're all jagged, and you can definitely clean it up a bit by maybe stitching some more of the little small polygons back on to these bigger sections, so you don't have so many little chunks floating around. But either way, you're going to have to deal with these major seams on this. Okay, so let's look at another way to do it. It's going to have a bunch of seams, but it's going to be a lot cleaner than this option. All right, so let's just go into the left view here. I'm just going to shift drag and copy this again. Okay, we'll hide this original one, grab that one, hit Z, and we'll just clear off these UVs, so let's delete them. Do a mapping clear, convert it to editable poly, and put another unwrap on. Okay, so we can do a little bit of work here to kind of minimize the randomness of those edges. Let's go maybe over to edge, and let's go to point seam again. Okay, we're going to find a place here that we can kind of cut this in some more even segments. Alright, so let's find a place. Let's do this one right here. We'll start on this vert. Okay, I'm going to cut this all the way down to this one, and then right click. Okay, so we just have that going across. And we're just going to kind of cut out some of these kind of diamond shapes here. So let's do another one this way. Okay, and we'll cut it right down to here, and then up this side to here, and then right click. Okay, so we're kind of cutting that kind of pattern out of it. We're going to do this all the way around. Alright, so I'm going to move over. We'll start on this vertex. Let's cut this guy up to here, and then back down to here. Okay, like that. So we're going to kind of follow this pattern around it. Alright, and this one here all the way down to the bottom. Right click, and we'll just keep working around the model, kind of cutting this in. Okay, and one more here for the bottom. Okay, like that. Alright, so as you can see, we kind of have some even sections here that go to the bottom base, and we obviously don't want to just unfold this top piece like this because it's going to have some squashing right here on these edges. So let's also continue these up to the top. Okay, so let's cut this one right up to the top edge and right back down to this point here. Okay, like that. And we'll just work around this doing the same thing. Okay, so let's start at the center, down to here. I'll turn off the wire here so you can see a little easier. So just from this point to this point, like that. Okay, so we have this kind of pattern on the top and the bottom. Okay, and it's going to be a lot of sections, but it'll pretty much allow us to kind of even it out. Alright, so it's going to move that off to the side of it. And we'll go over to polygon, and let's grab a polygon in one of these sections, expand it. Okay, and that should only fill that diamond shape. Alright, and you could do a pale filler, but let's just maybe do a planar map. So I'm going to hit quick planar map again to planar map those faces. We'll just keep moving here. Let's grab the next one, expand it, and planar map. And we'll just keep working our way around here until we planar map each of these sections. Okay, and one more right here. Expand and planar map. Alright, so the top ones are done. We need to do the same thing on the bottom here. Let's grab this one. And we'll just work around the bottom sections doing the exact same thing. Okay, and I believe one more here. Okay, I think we got them all. Alright, so every one of those is planar mapped separately. Let's just open up the UV window. And we're going to have these all stacked on top, so let's just spread them out a bit here. Okay, just like that. Let's grab all of them. Up to tools, down to relax. Crank it up and relax those. Okay. And in the viewport here in the background, you can turn your polygon shading off with F2, by the way. Okay, you can see how many seams we have there, so we'll try to minimize some of them by stitching these maybe to a couple of chunks. To do that, let's turn off sync by element, go back to edge, and we'll just go in here and grab these edges here. Okay, like that. And we'll hit either right click and go stitch selected to stitch those together, or just hit your keyboard shortcut. Okay, so let's do this one here. Grab these 4 edges and stitch. And let's do these ones down here. And stitch. And these ones here. And stitch. Okay, so that's one kind of chunk there. We'll do the same thing on the next one. Let's just move these apart a bit more. Okay, we'll just spread these out. Okay, I'm going to start with this one, and the reason for that is because it doesn't match up with any of the edges here on this big chunk. As you can see, none of those are blue. Alright, so we'll start stitching this one together. Let's turn that back off. Okay, let's go up here and you can see those are matching up with that edge there, so we'll just grab these 4 again and stitch. Same on the other side. Those 4, let's deselect that guy and stitch. And let's see, we'll do the bottom ones here. Stitch those, and the same on this side. Stitch. Okay, so we have 2 sections now rather than 8 or 9 or whatever we had the first time. Okay, so let's move that up. We can actually rotate this, and you can just rotate things up here with the rotation. Okay, that'll flip it 90 degrees either way with these 2 buttons. Okay, so let's maybe relax these down one more time now that we have them attached together. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we can just kind of stick these wherever. We're not going to be able to really attach them together. You could try to do that, but there's really no point. We're still going to have quite a few seams, so we'll just park them over here and put them into 0 to 1. Okay, let's actually rotate that a little bit more straight. Okay, so let's apply our checker here. Okay, and you can see that's pretty much not distorted at all on the checker. The only downside is that we have a number of seams to have to deal with here all over the place. But that's really, there's really no way to get rid of those on an object like this, at least that I know of. Okay, so the only really important thing is that everything's flat, so it's not going to be stretched or anything, but you will have to get rid of these seams on your texture. Okay, so let's look at how to map a geosphere. And let's just unhide all here. Okay, and I think we've done anything. Let's get rid of this guy. Actually, that's the other one. Let's put our checker on that. Okay, with this one you can see it's a little bit of distortion, but it's not too bad. So either way you want to do it, and you probably won't ever have to really unwrap a perfectly spherical geosphere. Usually you want to use those to create rocks or something where it's actually deformed, but you can do that any way you want. Okay, so I guess that'll wrap up part 1, and I know I glanced over a few things, and I'll try to explain some things in more detail in the second half. But hopefully this helped you out, at least get a little bit of a basic understanding of how to unwrap some simpler objects. In the second half we'll do an actual little scene, and I actually have a picture of it here. Just this little structure here. And we have quite a few moldings, as well as some subdivided pieces like this ladder and this pipe, as well as this grate down here. So we'll look at unwrapping all these objects in the second half, and then also packing these all onto one texture sheet. Okay, so that'll conclude part 1, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.